Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello. I was looking at the wrong camera. How's it going, everybody? Jesse Montano here. I was abandoned by JJ. I was expecting JJ to be here. It was going to be a fun Friday afternoon, hanging out at the studio, a little bit of breaking news. And then he left me out in the cold, all alone, here by myself, talking to no one. Now I know how Connor McGahee feels. No one to talk to. But it is Friday, and we do have some very interesting news out of the AHL. Oh my gosh, you guys actually posted this video of you dancing, Jay. You guys actually did it. Go to the Gorilla Sports Twitter right now and watch this video of Jay dancing like Travis Hunter. My goodness. It's August 23rd. Next weekend we'll be hitting September, and then it's only a few days after that we'll get going with rookie camp. And then it's rookie tournament, and then as soon as we get back from the tournament, we're ready to go. Gabe Landeskog back on the ice today. Brennan Vogt of At the Rink, Colorado was down there at Family Sports today. Right now, I think. Where Gabe Landeskog is skating, and he looks good, and he looks strong, which is, look, we saw him skating last week, and I thought it was legitimate improvement over what we saw out of him at any point last year. Because Gabe Landeskog was on the ice regularly last season. We saw him out there a lot. Never really pushing himself beyond like a light sweat. Never, he'd be out there during practices or morning skates. Never doing anything beyond just passing pucks, distributing, collecting pucks. Maybe he'd, once the drills were kind of wrapped up, he'd get in front of the net, tip some pucks. Really looked like he was pushing himself last week. We hear from Gabe Landeskog over the weekend at the, not over the weekend, during the pro-am of the BMW Championship that's going on right now here in Colorado in Castle Pines, where Gabe Landeskog said it's not a matter of if, it's now a matter of when I am able to get back. And this is the first time that we've seen him publicly on the ice since then. And I mean, he's doing some stuff with serious resistance, putting heavy weight on his legs, or on his right leg in particular. He told us on Thursday that he walked 18 holes on the golf course. What I think you're seeing here, I mean, I'm feeling more and more confident every day that the New Year's Eve prediction that I've made is maybe even starting to look on the later end of what to expect. Both he and Jared Bednar have outright said that they're hoping it's near the beginning of the season. Jared Bednar used the term early in the season. Again, I still think that between October and December is considered early. So we'll keep an eye on that. Highly encouraging, though. I know Gabe Landeskog has skated a couple times this week and has, I believe, one or two more sessions, rehab skating sessions, still to hit between now and early next week, Monday, Tuesday. So more progress And we're going to start to see guys, and that's also going to be kind of the next telltale sign. We're going to start to see guys getting into town here very soon for captain skates. Things like, Sam Girard usually gets in town early. Eric Johnson's usually here. They'll rent ice at the practice facility, and they'll just kind of go out and scrimmage. You'll get a couple guys in smaller groups that'll go out and work on stuff individually. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if Gabe Landeskog starts taking part in any of that, because he's usually the driving force behind a lot of that. Behind a lot of the getting guys to town early, what the drills are that we're doing, what we're actually going to be running through, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to be curious to see if Gabe Landeskog jumps in and again, Lonzo Ball, we've talked about him a lot here the last couple of weeks. He was cleared for full contact 5-on-5 activity. When are we going to see that from Gabe Landeskog? Based on what we're seeing today, the fact that he walked 18 holes at the golf course over the weekend, and the fact and what he looked like last week, I'm now curious to see when is he going to start getting back out there with other guys. It's still a ways out. He is still a ways out from being ready, no doubt about it. But just continuing to reinforce what he said of it's a matter of when, not if. Okay, I mentioned breaking news, and really, the Avs and the NHL threw us a couple bones earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, with some real newsy stuff. When we had both of our on our shows earlier in the week, but a big announcement today out of the AHL. This is the National Hockey League's development league. So this is widely considered to be one of the two leagues that is considered to be the second best league in the world. It's the AHL and the KHL are considered to be one rung below where the NHL is. And of course, the American Hockey League has their official affiliation with the NHL. The American Hockey League has mandated cut-resistant neck protection for all players and on-ice officials starting this upcoming season, which we're just weeks away from. This, of course, comes on the heels of the tragic incident that took place this past season in an overseas league where a player had his neck cut and he died on his way to the hospital in a game. It became a big topic of discussion immediately following, of course. But we talked to a lot of people in the NHL last season when this happened. There were a couple of guys who tried them out for themselves. A guy like TJ Oshie, who has an equipment company that he owns and runs, who started manufacturing compression shirts that had the built-in cut-resistant neck guard. When we went to players this past season and said, what do you think of the neck protection? Is it something that you think should be mandated league-wide? And the overwhelming response that we got was, it's horrible. It's tragic. My heart breaks for the individual, his family, the team, everyone involved. However, like I said, this was the feedback we got overwhelmingly. It's not something that we see happen often enough to make a rule change. And I honestly, I agreed with it. I agreed with that sentiment. Like I said, it was Adam Johnson, used to play in the Pittsburgh organization, was playing in England, the UK, Britain. I don't know how you refer to that, where he was playing in England. And yes, skate cut to the neck. It was horrible. But according to The Athletic in January polled 181 players about if they think the league should implement mandatory neck protection at the NHL level, the best league in the world. 78% of players polled said no. Overwhelming majority. The thing that I find fascinating about this ruling or rule change, however you want to refer to it, in the AHL, is that usually with stuff like this, we see implementation going forward. Players currently in the league grandfather in. Any new players have to wear the new gear, new protection, new sleeve length, new visor length. We've seen that in the NHL, that any player coming into the league now cannot wear nothing on their face. They have to have it, the half shield visor. As we're, just 10 years ago, you were allowed to do that. You were allowed to just rock the bucket, nothing else. That is not what the AHL is doing here. This is being implemented league-wide, regardless of age, experience, how long you've been in the AHL, if you have NHL games played. None of that matters. You have to wear neck protection. Now, there are a lot of people who are outside of, they're not directly involved with the league or the sport, who think that this is something that we should implement, that every player needs to have it. Again, I understand the sentiment, and when you see it happen, and you see someone lose their life, it makes it another level of real. And I also should point out, this is not the first time we've seen a player dangerously cut by a skate. It's not even the first time we've seen a player get their neck cut by a skate at the professional hockey league level. Thankfully, thank God, I can think of all those instances and count them on one hand. I do think, especially part of the issue with the neck protection in the past, the reason more people don't wear it, more players don't regularly use them already, especially up until the last, let's even be super generous and say 24 months, before the incident actually happened, there have not been a lot of solutions for this that are comfortable, that are breathable, that aren't restrictive. And you have a lot of players who have played their entire lives, their entire careers, not wearing it. And it is. I've worn neck protectors before. They are not comfortable. At least, I haven't put on one of the compression shirt versions, which I've heard are much, much better, but they're not comfortable and they are hot. And if you don't have the right one, they can be restrictive. And it's not restricted to your head movement, but it's another thick Kevlar piece of fabric right here. And what that Athletic poll shows, 78% of 181 players polled. In addition, that's their polling. We went through and I talked to a lot of players in the Avs locker room, and we asked a lot of players that came to town visiting, what do you think? And overwhelmingly, it's sad, it's horrible. I wouldn't wear one regularly. I don't think you should force guys to wear one regularly. There was a few practices and morning skates for the Avs. Freddie Olofsson wore one pretty much from the incident with Adam Johnson overseas forward. After that happened, Freddie Olofsson, I think maybe it was a week, where he wore one. And when we tried to ask him about it, he said he didn't want to talk about it because he didn't feel like it was that big of a deal, and he didn't think it should be newsworthy. He's making a choice to wear an extra piece of equipment, and his argument was guys change their equipment all the time. Guys add wrist guards and Kevlar socks and puncture proof undershirts all the time. Why are you guys talking to me about the net guard? He wasn't being rude or standoffish. He was trying to make a point, saying, I'm just making an equipment choice. And again, I think that's what it needs to be. It's an equipment choice. They make cut-proof wrist guards and socks. That go around your Achilles, your ankles, things like that. They make cut-proof arm sleeves that go up pretty far. You can get the compression shirts underneath that are cut-proof. I've got a scar right here on my thigh from a skate, and they're dangerous. But they now make cut-proof jock shorts, and I wish I would have worn those when I got this cut. But I think that's what it should be. It's an equipment choice, especially for something like that, where we see 5 players a week get hit in the face with pucks, get sticks up high, things like that. I think that's why they implemented the visor rule, because it's okay. Well, you have to have something. You can't have nothing on your face, because we see it every game, or every day in the slate of games. Someone gets a stick, a puck, something to the face. The helmets, when they were implemented, it was because you kept having repeated over and over and over head injuries. I'm really surprised, and this was a unanimous Board of Governors vote in the American Hockey League. I'm genuinely surprised to see that. They implemented the net guard rule at the junior level, which I thought made sense. These are kids. A lot of these players aren't going to make a career out of hockey. They're going to play junior hockey, and then they'll go to the beer leagues, and they'll get a regular job and things like that. These are minors. I understand why you feel like you need to put in additional safety guardrails in that instance. Especially at the NHL level, but even at the American Hockey League level, the KHL level overseas, in Russia, I'm just surprised that they are going to force players to do that. I think of a guy like Brad Hunt, who has, I'm trying to figure out the nicest way to say this. Brad Hunt has been around the league. He's been in pro hockey for a long time, and he spent a lot of it in the American Hockey League. Are you really going to make him now wear an additional piece of gear? A comment just came into the chat that I do think is interesting. Now, look, this was something that was highly controversial about the Adam Johnson play that happened overseas when his neck got cut. And I've spoken to people myself, nobody that was there or saw it, but just people who think this. There was a lot of speculation that I don't think the guy, even if you buy into this, I don't think the guy whose skate it was, I don't think he was intentionally trying to cut his neck. But there were a lot of people who said it sure looked like, as that player went down, that he kicked his foot out. That it was an intentional kick, not an intentional, I'm trying to cut your throat. And this is the other part of the argument that until we saw some of the changes coming to the net guards, very, very recently, I'm talking about since this incident happened, and companies trying to incorporate them into the compression shirts that come all the way up. Traditional hockey net guards were a pad that you velcroed on the back of your neck that really sat, I don't know how you can see that, about right there. There was a lot of room above, a lot of room underneath, and I agree with the sentiment here in this comment. I don't really know if that piece of equipment makes a difference or protects against the unbelievably unfortunate and tragic situation that happened in England. And again, it's not perfect. The shirts are heavy. They're made of Kevlar. They don't breathe very well. This is, you're talking about highly athletic, obviously, high intensity type workouts. I've seen people saying it's a cosmetic thing. Players don't want them because they don't look good. They don't look good. But that's not the issue. The issue is the the practicality of wearing a new piece of what a lot of players, and I'm telling you, this is what the players think. This isn't what I think. Restrictive equipment. And it's something that, if you're Nathan MacKinnon, you've played your entire career without that. And now I do believe Nathan MacKinnon played for Hockey Canada growing up. I believe Hockey Canada has had net guard requirements for their national junior teams. They used to wear the net guards. I know there were some minor league teams that, they really encouraged them. Nate's maybe worn them, and that's maybe a strong reason why he's not interested in wearing them again. I do think this goes beyond being just a cosmetic issue for players not wanting to wear them. And I'm going to be curious to see how the NHL responds to this. Not that I think they're going to come out and be like, "Oh, you can't do this." But again, there is a lot of conversation online that is saying, "Good, now do the NHL. Now do this. Implement this for ball." That this will be, and I just came across a comment. This is going to be what does it for me. This will be what truly tells you how the players feel. If you have an American Hockey League player who's playing with the net guard, practicing with the net guard, and then they get called up to the NHL, do they keep it? Do they keep wearing it, or do they shed it as quickly as they can? Because that will tell you what players truly think of being forced to wear them. I'm also going to be curious to see if this is something that the AHL is going to go out and get a deal for. Is CCM going to do this? Is there a monetary driving force behind this? Did War Road Hockey, who is TJ Oshie's equipment and apparel company, did they get a deal with the American Hockey League? CCM, who also does the AHL's jerseys, they make the full compression shirt neck protectors. Did they get an additional deal with the AHL? Or is it going to be players can go out and find the one that they feel to be the most comfortable? I don't like this, and I actually don't like that they're doing it this quickly. I don't like that they're saying not only do you have to wear this new piece of equipment, but you've got to do it starting in just a couple weeks. I think if that's a move the AHL wanted to do, they should have implemented it for a year from now so that players who wanted to start, electing to wear them could start wearing them, start getting used to them, could have been skating with them this summer. And, again, I'm going to be curious to see here at training camp just a couple weeks, the players who know that they aren't destined for the NHL. Are they going to start wearing neck guards here in just a couple weeks to start getting used to it? The ECHL doesn't require it. So are you going to not wear it in the ECHL, then get called up to the American Hockey League and start wearing it? I don't know. I don't like this move. I don't like saying that you have to do it based on this one incident. And not give anyone any kind of flexibility for if you were here before, your grandfather did. And again, the real linchpin for me is going to be in what way are they mandating it? Are players allowed to go out and find the one that best suits them? Is that going to lead to players getting trimmed down versions of the net guard so that they can technically pass the rule? But have something that's less restrictive? Or is the league going to say, hey, that new box of CCM net guards just got delivered. You better make sure every player is wearing them, because the third option of net guard is also, I believe this is what the CCM one primarily is. It's a bib that you put on underneath. So you put your compression shirt on, then you put the bib on that comes up to here. Then you do your shoulder pads. And again, I just, the overwhelming feedback I got from players was I've tried them and I don't like it. Don't like the way it feels. Don't like how hot it is. Don't like how restrictive it is. And I think, one, I'm curious to see what the AHL PA has to say about it. And it's one of the biggest things. I don't think you could do something like this in the NHL without it being in the CBA, without it being collectively bargained for. Comment here in the chat. The incident in the UK is still being investigated by the police, and I wonder if that outcome would have any effect on the NHL in any sense. Again, I think the issue that you're running into here, and I want to know what you guys think, because there's a lot of support for this online. So drop. I mean, if you have thoughts on this one way or the other, I'd love to hear what you think in the chat. I just think it's a really sweeping rule to make based off of one horrible incident. I cannot stress it. It was a horrible, tragic incident. I can't stress that enough. And you know, you sit there and you say, man, don't you wish that he was wearing a neck guard to give himself, you know, a little bit better chance of protection? But that has been my primary argument based on the video that I watched. And I'll be honest, I watched it about 1.5 times. It's horrific. It's hard to watch. So I haven't watched it on repeat necessarily, but I don't know if the neck guard, I just don't know if it really makes that big of a difference for, you know, let alone that one instance, but just in general. We see players get cut all the time through stuff that's meant to be cut resistant. And like I said, I just think I'd even be willing to bet that privately, this is going to get a lot of pushback from players that know they are destined for the American Hockey League. And I do think the argument or the thing that we're going to keep an eye on is what I mentioned a minute ago of, as players get called up, do they keep using them or do they get rid of them immediately as soon as they're not required to wear them anymore? I don't think the NHL could pass something like this. I don't think the players would be on board with it. I think you'd get crazy pushback from everybody, including the NHLPA, who would say you cannot force our players to wear something they don't want to wear. And like I said, I'm actually surprised to see how much support this is getting across social media platforms and in the comments and you know, in chat spaces and stuff like that. And I mean, there's a couple ones right here that are saying goalies have gone away from certain neck guards because they're so restrictive to movement. I think this is going to be, I think there's a chance this turns into a slightly bigger story than it is. A chance. I think there's a chance it turns into a slightly bigger story than we're seeing right now. Purely because I think the players aren't going to like this. I think they're going to push back. Got a couple comments coming in here. Let's see. Goalies that play without neck protections are pretty wild, though. And most of the ones that I know, where a padded protector, most of them I know have gone away from the dangle because they just don't feel it's effective. Another comment, they said that about helmet back in the day and then with the visor. Again, I disagree. When the NHL gets fired up here in a couple weeks at training camp, you'll see on the first 2 days, you'll see 4 guys get hit in the face with a stick or a puck. Go to basically any training camp around the league. You'll see guys get high sticked. You'll see a puck jump up and grab someone in the chin or in the eye. Ian LaPerriere had his orbital bone shattered blocking a shot. He is not the first one to have had that happen. I mean, the goalie mask, and I can never remember his name, the goalie that did the stitches on his mask. He did that because the NHL originally said, no, you can't wear a mask. He said, we get hit in the face too much. They said it's not that much. So the famous goalie mask that everyone has seen, the old school goalie mask with all the stitches drawn on it, he did that every time he took a puck to the face. He had the athletic trainer draw a stitch where he got hit as his way of proving we get hit in the face all the time. The visor and the helmet came out of, we are seeing repeated over and over injuries to the head. Now we're seeing repeated over and over injuries to the face. Guys are getting, hit in the face, hit in the eye, pucks, sticks, things like that. So visor and helmet, while I totally see where you're coming from with those are incidents where we've seen equipment mandates changed, I do think that has come from a place of this is a repeated problem, as where while I'm not trying at all to diminish what happened to Adam Johnson and the various players that we've seen, the few players that we've seen over the years who have been cut, especially up high. We see cuts every year. Eric Carlson comes to mind when he got the skate to the Achilles, and that changed. So many more players have embraced cut resistant and cut proof socks and things like that. I just don't feel that this is something that has happened frequently enough to justify a rule change and an equipment mandate. Can the PHPA push back? That's what I expect. The Professional Hockey Players Association, I do expect. I don't know if the AHL has their own. The NHL has the NHLPA. I don't know if the American Hockey League has the AHLPA. I do expect that players associations and groups like that are going to push back on this mandate, especially since it was a vote by the AHL Board of Governors. I don't know. In this article that the AHL has pushed out, I didn't see that it said, this was in conjunction with the players and this is something that everybody wants. I think that this is going to get pushed back. And that's the number one reason why I don't think that this will make it to the NHL. Let's see. Be required to wear cut resistant socks and wrist sleeves were previously mandated for AHL players and officials beginning last year. Refs are required for this too. Refs have an association. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if the officials, union pushed back on this. I'm going to follow this one closely here over the next couple weeks. I don't expect the NHL to follow suit, and if they do, I'll be highly surprised. But this, to me, even because there are plenty of guys, which this one I don't get why you wouldn't. There are plenty of guys who still don't wear cut resistant wrist guards or socks. The socks, I don't understand why any player wouldn't wear the socks, but the wrist guards, I've talked to guys who don't like the wrist guards. They just don't want compression stuff here. PHPA covers AHL and ECHL. Thank you, Lisa. Yes. So again, I do imagine that the PHPA will push back on this. Honestly, they are not bad. They make soft guards, kind of like the turtleneck that Gretzky used to wear. And I've absolutely seen that they are making really, again, I think back to the neck guard that I first wore. When did I try wearing that out? High school, I think. And they're thick, and yet they were a separate piece of gear, and you Velcroed them in the back, and there were still a lot of gaps, and they weren't great. So, it's great call out here in the comment of they have gotten a lot better, no doubt about it. But I'm telling you, when we talked to players last year, a lot of them had tried them, and they said, I just don't like it. It's too heavy. It's too hot. It's too restrictive. I don't like having the extra piece. It feels distracting. So I'm just passing along what the information is that real NHL players gave to us last season, saying don't want them. Another comment here from 182 Matty Boy. It's going to be odd for players that are called up or sent back between the NHL and AHL and take the guard off between leagues. And again, this is what I'm going to be keeping an eye on once we get into the regular season. And I think that will be the telltale sign for how players truly, truly feel about it. Let's use Sam Malinsky, Colorado Avalanche defenseman, right? If he starts the year in the AHL with the Eagles and he's wearing the neck guard, and let's say the first week of November, so he's played down there for 3 weeks, and the Avs call him up, if he hits the ice immediately with no neck guard, then that's going to tell you the players don't want him. Because as soon as they're getting called up, they are shedding the neck guard immediately and only wearing them when they are mandated to wear them. That will be your sign for how players feel about them. If players are getting called up and continuing to wear them, saying, it really doesn't bother me, I got used to it, practicing and things like that, then I think that will start to reinforce they're not that bad, and more players are going to start to wear them. And then in a few years, you could say, yeah, we think that's a good piece of equipment to have because 75% of the guys already wear them. I think if there's anything that we could potentially see happen at the NHL level, is it would be any player coming into the league from now going forward will wear the neck guards. But I just don't think that at the NHL level, I don't think the league would do it. I don't think the PA would stand for it. And I think you get a lot of pushback from the players. And I don't think that this saga is necessarily done in the AHL yet. Guys, I was expecting to have a real banter-heavy day with JJ, so I appreciate you guys sticking with me here for over 30 minutes of just me talking about neck guards. So I appreciate it. We're going to get out of here for today. Starting next week, guys, we're going to have some really exciting announcements about not just what we're doing with Avs coverage, but for Gorilla as a whole. We're going to have a bit of a refresh coming that I'm super excited for. And then the week after that will be a week out from training camp, and we're going to make some big announcements in terms of what we're doing this year to bring you guys what is going to be the best Avalanche and NHL coverage in Colorado. No doubt about it. I'm super excited for us this year and to be able to bring you guys the coverage of not just the Avalanche, not just the NHL, but of hockey that I have dreamed about either being able to consume or provide since I was a young kid. This is going to be a great year here at Gorilla for Avs coverage, for hockey coverage, and beyond. So make sure you guys are tuning in next week. We got shows Monday, Tuesday, Friday. You can find us right here on the set, talking all things Avs, NHL, and I'm just so excited to share with you guys what all we've got in the works for this upcoming season. It's going to be great. Jay's back there running the board. As always, there he is. That's Friday afternoon, Jay, right there. In the In-N-Out shirt. That sounds delicious. Hey, In-N-Out. Not a sponsor yet, but I'll eat a double-double on every show if you sponsor this show. How about that? Thank you so much. Another last comment here from 182 Matty Boy. Thank you all for the coverage, guys. It's great. Love it. It's going to be 5x what we did last year. I think you guys are really going to love it. So thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you on Monday. For Jay, I'm Jesse Montano. Have a great weekend, guys.